Matt from the Random Maker here, and today I am here to do another Arduino project based on the lessons provided by Elegoo for their starter kits. If you look at the number above, you can kind of see where you are in the series, and other than that, we're going to flip screens and we'll introduce today's project. Now we've got part 2 in front of us, lesson 2, RGB LEDs. This is going to be your first project that you're going to actually start bringing code in, and it's a lot of fun because a lot of people like having RGB lights for some reason. And as I said before, these packages are awesome, so if at any point you are missing things or not understanding, please refer to this because my videos are generally a quick how to build and get started, not necessarily a deep dive, because I find I like to know the basics myself, and then I like to dive into a project to understand how things work myself without following a video. So at this point, let's flip over to the build, and I'm going to get going on showing you how everything works. Well, let's just get building because that seems easier for me. Okay, what we're going to be working on now is the 2.2 lesson from Elegoo, and what you're going to need on this one is very simple. The Elegoo Uno R3, your breadboard, 4 wires of male-to-male. I also recommend using different colors, as you can see I've got here. 3 220 resistors and 1 RGB light. And you can tell an RGB light by the 4 pins over the 2 of a typical white light. All right, I'm just going to move this aside, and I'm going to turn this facing you. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I'm just going to put the light into place. Now, this project is a little different, is there's no easy way for me to really go backwards like my normal method, and so I'm just going to go for it. So we can just put the 4 pins into place, and I'm going to bend this a little bit backwards so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to pop in 220 resistors, and that's it. And we're going to go 220, skip, 220, skip. If at any point you're having a hard time getting these, just take your wire and poke the line that you want to use, because one of the things I've noticed is this is a newer board, and so they're a little stiffer to get into pin. So I'm just going to use this to kind of get the spring going. And all right, next, I'm just going to put the 220 in. All right, now we've got the resistors in place, let's put the wires in. So we're going to go red on the resistor, first one. On the one we skipped, we're going to put black on this side because we don't have a resistor to jump this gap. We are then going to take the green or yellow wire. So I grabbed green, realizing it was yellow later when I threw up the schematic on my screen, and then I'm going to put the blue into place as well. And now we are ready to connect to the board. And to connect to the board is incredibly easy. We're going to take our digital end. All right, and I'm just going to go from red that way to make it a little easier. So the red pin is going to go to number 6. The black pin is going to go to the ground. Now the green or yellow is going to go to number 5, and the blue is going to go to number 3. All right, double check everything is not touching because you don't want any of the wires to touch or else it can cause some crossing. And there you go. That's how you set up the LED RGB light. Well, I guess just RGB, not LED. And that's about it. It's a really simple one. All right, we're going to flip to the screen to get the coding running, and then we're good to go. Now that we've boarded up our project, we are ready to actually put some code on that board. And the reason I'm saying that is in the previous LED project, it was just power on or off because we were using the analog side, which basically we didn't even use that capacity. We just put 5 volts in and that was it. So the light went on. In this particular project, we are using the digital side, which it does not have a signal unless there's a command. So we have to put those commands in. Now you can write the software and code it, but for this project, we want you to just actually get something working. So we are going to be using the RGB LED code provided by Elegoo, and you do have to download the INO patch or code
off the Elegoo website ahead of time, and then we can actually just drag and drop it here into the software. So I'm going to go through that. I am going to point out where you can play with the colors. I'm not going to be going too much in depth into that because this is more of a get started guide. If you want to go into that, check out the project lesson that I showed earlier in the video. So first thing I like to do is I want to make sure before I get too started that my Arduino is connected. I am going to unplug it before I switch the code because I am going to show you at the end of the video here the results, and I'm going to have it unplugged. But we can see right here that the COM is working. We can see it's registering in Arduino Uno. If that was wrong, you can see here we have different boards that you want to make sure you're using the right type of board. Okay, now that we know my board's working, we're going to actually bring in the INO file. So we're going to go here, open, and I'm going to just click open. And I am going to go into my desktop, and I'm just going to look for where it is. And we can see here the RGB LED INO file. Now that we've loaded up the code, you can see a new window pop up, and that's okay. We want to work in that window. Now I'm gonna give a really quick rundown of how this code works because I'm gonna go too depth in that because this is more of a get started video. But if you're really wondering how this all works, check out the Elegoo lesson paperwork that I showed earlier in the video because that actually goes through it in depth. And the nice thing about Elegoo actually is if you notice in the code, they're actually talking you through how things work. And so they're actually explaining how the code works for you to manipulate yourself, which is, I think, amazing. A great way to start coding is not just to write a blank page. It is to take a look at other code and start to play around with it, as that's how I learned with this kind of stuff, and it was a great way. So I'm not going to go into major depth, but if you do want to start to change the colors, go on Google and look up color values, and it's 1 to 225 for the red, green, blue, and you can start to add in and out those values to create custom colors. And honestly, read through the code. In this case, they've got great notes. It's easy to follow, but for our purposes today, that's as far as I'm going to go with that explanation. But now let's flip over to the board, and I'm going to basically go through getting the board and light working together.
The next step we're going to do here is we are going to supply this board with power. As we can see, nothing's happening at this stage. I'm then going to go into my software and I'm going to click verify to make sure the code is working. I'm then going to hit upload. And as we can see here now, the light is flashing different colors. Now, if you take a look at the project lesson, you can actually go into the code and change the color values to see different colors that the RGB light can do. Now, I mentioned that a little bit when we were getting this code set up. I pointed that out, so feel free to play with it. I'm not going to be doing that here because as far as I'm concerned, we have a flashing LED light and we're good to go to move on to the next project. Hey, if you liked that video, why don't you hit the like button? If you want to see more content like this and other random projects, hit the subscribe button and follow what the Random Maker is doing. If you have any project ideas and want to see come to life in front of you, put it in the comment section below. We do take a look at all the comments, and whether we reply or not, we are reading them. I want you to know that. And you know what? Until the next project, Matt from the Random Maker saying, let's get making.